Our optimism on the road to Glasgow now seems short-lived. Global greenhouse gas emissions continue to rise unabated, leading us at best to a scenario of near 2 degrees Celsius, or the catastrophic 2.7 degrees. NDCs, as they stand, are entirely inadequate to safeguard life on our planet as we know it, and key cross-cutting issues are being kicked out of the negotiating room. A tragic scenario for small island states on the front lines of the climate crisis, fighting for our survival in a war that we did not start. Like the Prime Minister of Barbados said, I would like to believe that the major emitters are not capable of what would, in essence, be close to a climate genocide. I would like to believe that we are visible and indispensable for them. The Dominican Republic represents, in absolute terms, a very small percentage of the global greenhouse gas emissions, responsible for just 0.06% of these. And as an island, shared with the neighboring Republic of Haiti, we are one of the most vulnerable worldwide to extreme weather events associated with climate change that are forecasted mainly in storms, floods, droughts, and rising sea level. There is no greater challenge or real threat that affects our lives and livelihoods more directly than climate change. These are not new words. These are the words that the scientific community has repeatedly warned over and over, and our window to end the crisis is closing. Like those our fellow Cits, our priorities at COP26 are clear: keeping 1.5 within reach, ending the persistent and inexcusable subsidies to polluting industries, ensuring more and efficient quality financing for climate change, especially for adaptation, which has been entirely inadequate to date, and a strong outcome on loss and damages. AOSIS countries have been calling on it since 1991, not on the margins of adaptation, but as a separate issue in its own right, cementing financing and support, because we don't want to be hand in hand every time we experience a catastrophic event. What we need is systematic support. The time has come to act and to do it together. The world cannot wait any longer, and islands like ours cannot wait any longer. In response to this urgency, the Dominican Republic is carrying out incipient but sustained climate mitigation and adaptation actions that also contribute to the global goals. By 2030, our nationally determined contribution states that 7% of our national commitment will no longer be conditional on international cooperation, raising our total reduction commitment to 27%. We know that this is not enough, and we have agreed to push forward and progressively increase our climate ambition, setting the challenging goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. And we're already meeting our goals ahead of time. And we do it in the midst of a complicated environment, with a pandemic and an economic crisis of enormous proportions, aware that this situation cannot be an excuse for not undertaking the necessary and irreversible changes that our debt-driven countries need, and that, on the contrary, should serve as an engine of change for faster and more determined action. Don't let our lives, our lands, our cultures be the cost of inaction. In times of pandemic, and while we design recovery packages from a sustainability, equity, and inclusion perspective, the central role of nature-based solutions is playing in green economy is being debated, and we are betting on them. We are modernizing and adapting our agriculture to greater resilience to drought and replacing obsolete and high-carbon technologies, while studying the opportunities offered by silvopastoral and agroforestry systems. The tourism sector is betting on the reproduction of corals and protection of coral reefs, and as a means to protect coastlines from waves, storms, and floods. Increasing protected areas and forest coverage, currently representing 42% of our land, our reforestation efforts are focused on coastal resilience, planting mangrove trees along the coast of the Dominican Republic and developing a blue economy, and restoring degraded sites, protecting our biodiversity, and last, developing a sustainable financial system that guides investment towards climate action, diversifying the existing framework of financial instruments. We have become the third country in the region and the 13th in the world to sign an emission reduction purchase agreement for the totality of our emissions reduction, at a very unfavorable price, however, which does not reflect the true cost of abatement of polluters. Also, we are committing to promoting a true energy transition in the country, which contributes to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, focusing on transforming our energy matrix to build resilience, already close to meet our goal of 30% of renewables by 2030, and have recently become a regional leader in terms of electric mobility. We've also gone a long way in bringing a more diverse and intergenerational delegation, which has undoubtedly enriched our discussion and brought more perspectives to the table: long-term finance, And climate action and its sustainability depends on having everyone contributing in its decision-making and implementation. We, island nations, have done and are doing everything within our reach, but this might not be enough to survive. We have arrived at COP convinced that climate change is humanity's most pressing challenge at this time, and that the recovery of our economies must be a green recovery. We don't want to go back to a normality where our survival is taken for granted. We have to build a better way forward. We hope to count on the collaboration and cooperation of the international community to make the structural changes and required financing mechanism viable. This is the time to act. Let's not fail anymore because we cannot afford it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your statement.